Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today we're diving into something pretty fascinating. It's a concept many of you might have heard tossed around but maybe haven't fully explored. We're talking about the 40% rule. You know that feeling, right? You're pushing hard, maybe it's a workout, maybe a tough project at work, maybe just trying to stick to a new habit. And you hit this wall. You feel completely spent. Like, that's it, game over.
Yeah, absolutely. We've all been there. And what's really interesting, what the science and frankly a lot of experience tells us, is that feeling, that point where you think you've reached your limit. It's often just your mental governor kicking in.
The mental governor?
Exactly. It's this sort of internal safety system.
Right.
It's wired into us to protect us from pain, from discomfort, from fatigue. It wants us to stop, conserve energy, stay safe.
Okay, but here's the provocative part.
Yeah, this is the kicker. What if that feeling, that signal to stop, actually fires when you've only used about 40% of your actual capacity? What if there's like 60% more potential just sitting there untapped?
Yeah. 60%. That's huge. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. We want to understand how this mental governor works, what's going on in the brain. And more importantly, we'll look at some really practical ways you can learn to, push past that front of percent feeling and tap into that huge reserve. Ready to find out what you're really capable of?
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's really get into this mental governor idea first. It sounds kind of technical, but it feels very real.
It is very real. Think of it less like a simple switch and more like a really complex piece of software running in your brain. It's constantly monitoring everything, your heart rate, your muscle fatigue, your energy stores, sure, but also your past experiences, your fears, your self-doubts.
Wow, so it's taking in a lot more than just physical signal.
Oh, absolutely. It's integrating all of that. And its primary goal from an evolutionary standpoint is survival and energy conservation. It's predictive. It's trying to stop you before you get into real danger, or even just before you get too uncomfortable. It wants you to stay in that comfort zone.
So it's not necessarily saying you are physically incapable, but more like, warning,
Right.
approaching potential discomfort. Might want to stop now.
Precisely. It's often triggered by the perception of effort or the anticipation of pain, rather than actual physiological failure. There are specific brain regions involved, like the anterior cingulate cortex and the insula, which process these internal states and our emotional responses to them. When they fire up, you get that strong urge to quit.
Okay.
But recognizing that signal for what it is, your brain's software, not your absolute limit, that's the key. It's about becoming, as some say, self-ruled, not mind-ruled.
Self-ruled, not mind-ruled. I like that. It shifts the power back to you. But I mean, how do you tell the difference? How do you know if it's just the governor talking or if you're genuinely about to injure yourself or collapse? That seems tricky.
It is tricky, and honestly, it takes practice and self-awareness. A sharp, sudden pain signaling an injury is different from that gradual buildup of burning muscles or the mental fog telling you you're tired. The governor usually pipes up well before true danger. It's the voice saying, "This is hard," or "I'm tired," not necessarily, "This is causing damage." Learning to recognize that familiar voice of discomfort, that desire to quit as the governor, is step one. It's about building tolerance, learning to sit with that discomfort for a bit longer.
Okay, that distinction is really helpful. And that leads us straight into the 40% rule itself. Is this like a scientifically proven number, or is it more of a guideline, a metaphor?
It's much more of a powerful metaphor. I'd say you won't find studies saying everyone universally quits at precisely 40.0%. But it's based on very real observations, especially from people who push boundaries. Think ultra-endurance athletes, military special forces, people in survival situations. The core idea is spot on. Most of us, most of the time, stop way before we reach our true physical or mental breaking point.
So we have this reserve tank, basically, and it's not just for, running marathons, right? This applies elsewhere.
Everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Think about tackling a complex problem at work. You hit a wall, feel frustrated, want to give up and check your email. That's the governor, learning a new skill, feeling awkward and wanting to quit. Governor, facing a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Same thing. Your brain defaults to the path of least resistance, the comfortable path. It wants to conserve energy, not necessarily achieve peak performance or growth. So it often signals stop around that 40% perceived effort mark.
It really reframes those moments of wanting to give up. To really rip this home, let's talk about someone who seems to live beyond the 40% rule. David Goggins. His stories are, they're intense.
Intense is an understatement. Goggins is practically a case study in overriding the mental governor. I mean, his background, his transformations, his endurance feats, they're almost unbelievable. Take his experience of the Badwater 135 race.
The one through Death Valley in July.
That's the one. And during one attempt, he was in terrible physical condition going in. We're talking stress fractures, kidney issues, just immense physical pain from the start. By any normal standard, he should have stopped. His body was screaming at him.
Right. Most people would have, and probably should have, quit right there.
But he didn't. He made a conscious decision. He acknowledged the pain, acknowledged the governor screaming at him, but he refused to let it dictate his actions. He employed this strategy of, mental compartmentalization.
What do you mean by that?
Instead of thinking about the 100+ miles remaining or the agony he was in, he broke it down. He focused only on the very next step, just getting to the next mile marker, just surviving the next few minutes. He used relentless self-talk to stay present and override that urge to quit.
Just the next step. That sounds simple, but in that state.
It's incredibly difficult. But that mental discipline allowed him to finish, I think it was 101 miles in under 19 hours that time. It's a staggering example of the mind's power over the body when you refuse to accept those initial stop signals. It shows what's possible when the mental state aligns with the goal, despite the physical reality.
It really does. But, Goggins is an extreme. What can the rest of us who aren't Navy SEALs or ultra athletes take away from this? How do we apply these principles without running 100 miles?
That's the crucial question. And the good news is the strategies are universal.
Yeah.
It's about building that mental resilience in our own lives.
Yeah.
Let's break down some practical ways to start tapping into that extra 60%.
Okay, first up, you mentioned awareness and recognizing signals. How do we get better at that?
It starts with mindfulness, really. Paying attention to your internal state without immediate judgment. When you feel that discomfort rising, the fatigue, the boredom, the urge to procrastinate, the little voice saying, I can't. Just pause, notice it, label it internally. Okay, that's the governor talking.
Just noticing it creates some distance.
Exactly. It creates a small gap between the feeling and your reaction. You're observing it instead of instantly obeying it. Think about wanting to skip a workout. Instead of just rolling over, notice the thought, acknowledge it as the governor wanting comfort, and then maybe consider, can I just do 10 minutes? It's about catching yourself in that moment.
Okay, so I noticed the signal. What's next? How do I actively push back? This is where visualization comes in, right?
Yes, and it's incredibly powerful. Visualization isn't just daydreaming, it's like a mental rehearsal. When you vividly imagine yourself succeeding, pushing through the difficulty, achieving the outcome you want, you're actually activating similar neural pathways as if you were doing it for real.
So you're preparing your brain for success.
You are. You're making the unfamiliar familiar. If you're nervous about a presentation, visualize yourself delivering it confidently, handling questions well, feeling good afterwards. Focus on the feeling of accomplishment. Goggins talks about visualizing himself in uniform, graduating SEAL training, even during the toughest moments. That mental picture provides fuel. It makes the brain believe it's possible, which helps counteract the governor's warnings.
That makes sense, creating a mental roadmap. Okay, but then there's that critical moment, that flashpoint where the desire to quit is almost overwhelming. You call it the 1-second decision.
This is where the rubber meets the road. It's that tiny window of time, maybe literally just a second, where the impulse to stop, to give in, is strongest. What do you do right then? Most people just drift into quitting. The 1-second decision is about consciously intervening in that moment. You make an active choice. Instead of letting the negative thought take hold, this is too hard, I quit, you deliberately choose to stay, to take one more step, to write one more sentence, to hold on for one more minute. It's about immediate action, however small, to counter the impulse.
Like Goggins deciding not to get out of the cold water.
Exactly. Or for us, it might be deciding not to hit the snooze button, deciding not to open that distracting website when you're feeling stuck on a task. It's a micro battle of will, won in that single second. And winning that battle consistently starts to change everything.
And winning those battles leads to the next idea. Callousing your mind sounds a bit rough.
It's meant to. The idea is that mental toughness, like physical toughness, isn't built in comfort. It's forged by consistently and deliberately exposing yourself to hardship, to discomfort. Just like your hands get calluses from lifting weights, your mind develops resilience from facing challenges.
So we should actively seek out things that are uncomfortable.
Within reason, yes. Deliberately. Maybe it's taking cold showers. Maybe it's doing that workout you dread. Maybe it's tackling the hardest task on your to-do list first. These aren't necessarily huge, life-altering things initially. They're small daily acts of pushing against resistance.
Like mental push-ups.
That's a great way to put it. Each time you lean into discomfort, instead of shying away, you're strengthening that mental muscle. You're teaching your brain that discomfort isn't fatal, that you can handle it. Over time, your tolerance increases, and things that used to seem daunting become manageable. You build mental armor.
Okay, so it's not about constant suffering, but consistent, deliberate challenge.
Precisely. Which ties directly into the next point. The daily grind. Small victories, big transformations.
Right, the power of consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. Big changes rarely happen overnight. They're the result of small, consistent efforts stacked over time, making it a daily habit to do something that pushes you, even slightly. Something that, kind of sucks but moves you forward.
Like maybe you can only do 2 pull-ups at first.
Exactly. And the governor will tell you, see, you suck at this. Why bother? But you do your 2 pull-ups. Then maybe tomorrow or next week you do 3. Each small increase, each time you show up despite the difficulty, is a small victory.
And those small wins build momentum.
They build huge momentum. They build self-efficacy, the belief in your ability to actually do things. Losing 5 pounds gives you the confidence to aim for 10. Finishing one difficult chapter makes the next one seem less impossible. It rewires your internal narrative from "I can't" to "I am."
This is all building towards something deeper, isn't it? Not just actions, but identity. Cultivating an identity for sustained growth.
Yes, this is really important for making it stick. It's about deciding who you want to be. Do you want to be someone who is resilient, disciplined, someone who finishes what they start? Then you start acting as if you already are that person.
Even if you don't fully feel it yet.
Especially if you don't feel it yet. Visualize that version of yourself.
Yeah.
How would resilient you handle this challenge? How would disciplined you approach this task? Then act accordingly. Your actions reinforce the identity. You literally become that person through consistent choices aligned with that desired identity.
That's powerful. It's like setting your own internal standard.
It is. And part of that identity has to include how you view failure. Goggins failed multiple times. He quit SEAL training the first time, failed attempts at records. But he didn't let failure define him as a failure.
He used it as fuel, right?
Exactly, as feedback. What went wrong? What can I learn? How do I come back stronger? Embracing failure as a necessary part of the growth process rather than an endpoint is critical for building that resilient identity. Every setback, viewed correctly, actually strengthens your mental armor.
So it's about preparing mentally, even for setbacks.
Yeah.
Maybe visualizing how you'll handle them.
Yes. Anticipate challenges. Mentally rehearse your responses. Keep track of your wins, your struggles, what you learn maybe in a journal. This documentation reinforces the journey and your growing capability. It makes the identity real and tangible.
Wow. Okay, so pulling all this together, it really feels like mastering your mind, understanding and working with this mental governor is the absolute foundation for reaching potential.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because so much of what limits us isn't physical reality, it's our perception of it.
Yeah.
When you learn to control your thoughts, manage your response to discomfort, and consciously choose your actions in those tough moments, you unlock levels of strength and capability you genuinely didn't know you had.
So for everyone listening, the takeaway isn't necessarily to go run an ultramarathon tomorrow.
Not at all.
It's about starting small, recognizing those signals, making that 1-second decision more often, maybe trying that cold shower, or just pushing through 5 more minutes of focused work when you want to bail.
Precisely. Each time you consciously push past that initial feeling of wanting to stop, you build resilience. You expand your comfort zone just a tiny bit, and those tiny bits add up significantly over time. Your mind is this incredible tool to learn to wield it intentionally.
Use it to break barriers, not build them. So next time things get tough, remember that 40% might just be the starting line. Control your mind, make the choice to push, and see how much stronger you become.
And maybe leave you with this thought. Don't stop when you're tired, stop when you're done. What does done truly mean for you?
A powerful question to ponder. Thank you so much for this deep dive today, and thank you all for joining us. Until next time, keep exploring.